The story of the Nightmare Saga. Before the nightmare, the loop begins. Before the darkness consumed him, before the pain and revenge shaped his future, there was a young man lost in time. At 20 years old, Chocolate should be moving forward, but something is wrong. He feels like he's been here before. Visions of a future he hasn't lived yet haunt him. How can he miss someone he hasn't even become? He knows he's going to fall, going to suffer, going to lose everything. But no matter how much he tries to change it, the cycle is already in motion. The album plays out like a paradox. He fights to escape his fate, yet he's already trapped in it. Pain Part 10 is proof. How can a Part 10 exist before the first? This means the suffering has always been there, no matter what choices he makes. By the end of Nightmares 4, he understands the truth. The nightmare isn't coming. It's already here. And with that, the loop resets, sending us to the true beginning. Chapter 2, Nightmares, Remedies for Emotions. The loop never stops. Chocolate's struggle continues, but now, he's drowning in more than just visions. The weight of his past and the uncertainty of his future press heavily on him. Each moment he fights for control, but he can feel the darkness creeping, wrapping around him, pulling him back into the cycle. It begins with a message, a voice that tries to pull him out of the dark, reminding him of something simple. Your worth, believe in yourself, be yourself. In those words, there's a sliver of light, a glimmer of hope. The advice is clear: if you're lost, if you're struggling, you can still believe. Yet, as he tries to grasp that hope, it feels fleeting, slipping through his fingers like sand. The music offers solace, but peace seems unreachable. The next moment pulls him deeper into the abyss. A haunting voice interrupts the beat, a sinister whisper that chills him to the core. Can he beat you know what I mean? Do it again, and I'm spinning again. The rhythm twists, and for a moment, he's unsure whether he's fighting to survive or simply playing into the darkness. The voice promises death, a reminder of the cycle that is always present, the darkness that always follows him. And yet, with every spin, every loop, he finds himself helpless to escape. Then comes the moment of conversation with God. Chocolate asks the question that plagues him. Why are the good people always last? He longs for answers, for the weight of his sorrow to be lifted. He feels like a stranger to himself, as if he's living someone else's life. I'm waiting for you to answer my prayers, he pleads. And yet, as the darkness clouds his thoughts, he can't help but see the broken bonds, the emotions torn apart by temptation. He acknowledges his past, the people who've come and gone, but still, the cycle continues. He's trapped. He wishes he could leave the pain behind, start again, but he knows deep down that it's impossible. The weight of the past is unshakable. He wishes he could find the way out, but the sorrow has been ingrained in him. How is this even possible? I'm drowning in sorrow, he confesses. But even as he struggles, there's a part of him that believes, hopes, that he'll see his loved ones tomorrow. The loop never stops, but there's always the faintest hope that maybe, just maybe, the next time will be different. Then comes the moment of love amidst the chaos. Chocolate promises the world to his girl, his ride or die. Make sure you gon' be all right. When you are around, he sings. It's a reassurance, a vow that nothing will stop them, that their bond is unbreakable. Together, they'll rise above the pain, above the darkness. We're gonna stand tall together like a brick wall, he says, determined to shield her from the world. But even as he promises, the weight of his reality begins to set in. There's still pain, still sorrow lingering, a reminder that nothing is ever truly safe. Lil EJ's verse adds a layer of raw emotion. All this pain, I wish I could wash it away, but that is impossible for me. He's trapped in his own cycle of regret and longing, but he waits for something, anything, to break the chain.
His fears are evident. This was all a fantasy. And yet he holds on to hope. For a moment, it feels like the pain could wash away, but in the end, he knows it's a futile hope. The next chapter of Chocolate's journey sees him struggling to find his place in a world that moves too fast. She's moving too fast, he says, frustrated by how quickly everything is changing around him. People doubt him, but he knows he's fire, he's got something special. The beat matches his energy, an anthem of defiance, telling the world that he's not going down without a fight. The cycle of pain continues in the form of his heartache. He pleads for his girl to stay with him, to ride with him through the ups and downs. Please don't you worry about the things that we do, he sings, trying to reassure her amidst their turbulent emotions. But even as he promises everything will be all right, there's that nagging feeling that this might all end too soon. He's stuck in a loop, trying to escape the inevitable, while also holding on to something real. Reality crashes in like a storm. The world doesn't care about the pain he's carrying. People hate. So what do I gotta flip? He questions. He's tired of the judgment, the whispers behind his back. They call him whack, but he knows the truth, they re just scared. He won't back down. He won't let them win. But even as he stands tall, the shadows loom, and the darkness whispers again. This is your nightmares, it's irreverent, playing with your brain. The mind games never stop. The tricks keep coming. But Chocolate knows one thing for sure. There ain't no place to hide. This is the place for the big dogs, so stay tall, time to face your fears. And then the loop repeats, sending him back into the never-ending cycle. Chapter 3. The pursuit of happiness after the storm that was nightmares. The journey continued with a new chapter, Nightmares 2. Pursuit to happiness. Chocolate found himself at a crossroads. The weight of his past, the doubts that clouded his every move, and the fractured pieces of his heart needed a voice. In 2020, he stepped into the next phase of his journey, one that would see him search for a fragile, yet powerful thing: happiness. It all began with a chilling voice, one that had haunted him before. This time it wasn't threatening, but rather, it was a call for survival. Let the happiness be you, the voice whispered. Don't let the happiness take over anything else. Life is gonna be hard sometimes, but you just gotta keep pushing through it. Keep going to war. It is what it is. It's gonna be that way. The message was simple, but it was all he needed to hear. It reminded him that in the midst of all the chaos, happiness could be his weapon, his shield. The battle was far from over, but the war was his to win. But the road wasn't smooth. Chocolate's mind had always been a tangled web of emotions, too complex for words, yet he tried to explain. Listen, he said, his voice heavy with truth. Things can't be explained in the world today. A lot goes on, but no one has the heart to help others. That's where it starts. Everyone has a problem, but not seeking help. Those who fail to understand, all these people keeping their hands to themselves. Awareness is not there. No one is willing to solve it. The truth stung, and yet he knew he had to speak it. So listen to this music and enjoy it. It was his way of reaching out, his way of inviting others into the journey that was his life. There were moments of reflection too. Some parts of his past were too painful to revisit, but he had to sing a pain, and changing it a bit was his attempt to close that chapter. The song felt familiar, like a revisiting of old wounds. He didn't change much, but he changed enough. This time it was clearer, sharper, better. He called it his last installment of pain, the final chapter of a story he'd been writing in his own blood. Then came the story of someone else, a woman who once was everything, but now seemed to belong to something else. She lied, she copped out, and Chocolate had lost all patience. She for the streets, he sang, the words biting. Go ahead, girl. You're gonna have to face it. Young, dumb, and wasted. I know you've got a lot to say, but you belong to the streets. The chorus echoed through his mind as he rapped the painful truth. I need to leave you in the past. We used to be cool. You used to make me laugh, but I can't be the person that you ask, and it won't ever last. That chapter, too, was closed. But even in the midst of the pain, humor found its way back in. Chocolate's mind was a mix of light and dark, a memory of a silly squabble over a Wii remote. But it was also a reminder of how far he'd come. He laughed at the absurdity, but beneath it was a truth. He wasn't running anymore. He had started freestyle to Mike in Ike, a throwback to a simpler time when he didn't take things too seriously. It was funny, playful, and just a moment to let loose. But then, the voice returned, the one that always lurked in the shadows. The world is so corrupt. Things need to change. Things need to be altered. Things aren't the same. The words hung in the air, dark and foreboding. It wasn't just a statement, it was a warning. The world outside hadn't changed, but Chocolate was no longer the same man either. Chocolate was angry, and he had every right to be. People had told him to quit, to stop chasing this dream, to let go of everything. But he wasn't backing down. He was stronger now, and this was his revenge, not just against those who doubted him, but against the world that tried to break him. He wasn't playing anymore. He was going to rise. Chocolate and Lila J, the duo's voices harmonized with a strange mix of yearning and hope. "Don't run away," Chocolate sang, his plea for someone to stay, to hold on, to weather the storm together. Lil EJ added his own words, a reminder of love and resilience, of finding peace amidst the chaos. Until he disappeared like a ghost. Chocolate has realization that he was never even there. There was another side of the story, though. Chocolate wasn't just the hero in this tale. In his pursuit of love, he was also the villain. He started singing the realization that she knew he wasn't trustworthy, that he missed her, and yet, they both knew things couldn't go back to the way they were. The cycle of pain seemed unbreakable, yet Chocolate tried once more. Pain P5 wrong was his attempt to make sense of it all. He was sorry, but the truth was hard to swallow. He apologized, but in his heart, he knew the blame wasn't his. She had said he was wrong, but in the end, she was the one who had it all wrong. It was time to break free, but not everything was dark. He learns, which brought a shift, a form of liberation. Chocolate was changing, evolving into something new. He'd crashed out, sure, but now he was reclaiming his place in the world. No one had been there for him when he was down, and now that he was rising, they didn't belong in his circle. It was his time. Then came Sunday, a day of peace. Sunday Fun Day marked a return to simplicity, a reminder that even in the chaos, there was a day meant for rest, for reflection. Chocolate talked about the sun, about God's light, and how that light could guide him through the darkness. And lastly, as Chocolate was trying to find a way out of the loop, he sang a playful, almost mocking anthem. A troll song, a reminder that not everything needed to be taken seriously. Sometimes it was okay to laugh. Through it all, Chocolate continued to fight, to search for happiness, to heal. The journey wasn't over, but he was getting closer. Each step, each song, each word was a battle won. And as he walked the path, he knew one thing for sure. The war was his to win. To be continued.